Welcome to the Main Street Minute with equestrian marketing expert India Wilkinson. This is the destination for all things equestrian, from horse sales, breeding, horse health, and a look into the intricacies of the horse business world. Join India as she dives in with industry leaders to discuss the challenging and rewarding lifestyle of being in the equestrian world. And get ready for the Main Street Minute.
Hi there, this is India Wilkinson with the Main Street Minute, and today I am so excited to welcome Nardine, who is going to tell us about her program, The Strong Rider. And I just want to add that I met Nardine through Women in Equine group, and it has just been such an amazing group to be able to connect with other women business owners and equestrian career women. So I just want to give a little shout out to Women in Equine. So Nardine, I think we should just jump right in. So tell us about what the Strong Rider is, how you started it, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, firstly, thank you so much for having me. And again, big shout out to that group. It's if you are an equestrian business owner, it is such a welcoming group. So and it's obviously brought this opportunity. So I'm also want to shout them out as well. But yeah, the Strong Rider is coming into we're in its 6th year. I started it because I've been a strength and conditioning coach for over 20 years, working in high performance sport in particular, but have been a horse girly my whole life. And so I was going to the barn, and every time I'd go to the barn, everyone would be like, "Can you help me with my knee? Can you help me with my back? Can you help me with my shoulder?" It's easy to lose time at the barn anyway. And so one of the barn girls said to me, "Why are you not training horse riders?" And honestly, I think because just like my passion, it's my me time is when I'm at the barn. And so it just genuinely hadn't crossed my mind. And so I sat down and thought, there is this massive gap in education around, how much doing the work out of the saddle can help. And so the more I started to talk to people, the more I realized that gap and how there really was a lot of riders out there who were looking for something, had tried different trainers, but, it's so unique what we do, riding horses. And so having that background as a rider myself has really obviously been a key aspect to me starting the Strong Rider. And so, yeah, combining my two loves of strength and conditioning and horses.
I love that. So, all these thoughts are going through my head because I evented forever, and you have to be so strong to be able to, I think all disciplines, for me, that's personal. I felt like I needed to be so strong to be able to ride effectively. But where I really saw it is when I crossed over into strictly dressage and went after my medals, and was super fortunate to acquire an upper level schoolmaster who needed to take a step down that was helping me get my bronze. And I did earn my bronze. I have not yet earned my silver, but I thought I was strong until I rode that horse. He humbled me beyond measure. And I ended up there was a trainer who taught Pilates only for equestrians. And it helped me so much to be stronger in ways that I was really using my core even more. I thought I used my core until I rode this horse. So, my question was going to be like, who do you help and what problem do you solve? But really, you can help anybody because I'm an amateur rider. You don't have to be a professional rider.
No.
To want to be. Yeah. So tell us about that.
Yeah. And so I would say, majority of my clients are adult amateurs and professionals, all disciplines. Again, a lot of people think it's for eventers because I'm an eventer myself. And so they obviously see me out at events, but I I'm across all disciplines. So from English to Western, I have a number of Western writers as well. And so the same foundations are needed regardless of your discipline. And then, I have different programs that go into a little bit more specifics that are needed for each discipline. But it's ultimately, it's such a unique sport that we do. It's so unique. And I think your example is great because I see this as a common theme of why a lot of riders come to me. So it's either a coach has said the rider can't keep up with the level of the horse. That is a common occurrence where they'll come to me and be like, my coach, my trainer said, I'm not fit enough, I'm not strong enough to ride my own horse, right? And that's a tough conversation to have with a rider. But, I think regardless of the level that you ride at some point your body catches up to you and the gap between your capabilities and your horse's capabilities is too big and you have to do something about it, right? And that's often where I step in because like I said, it's a really common theme where someone's just not able to progress in the saddle, not able to do more because of their physical limitations. The horse can, but they can't, right? And that's a tough place to be in. But it kind of, my motto for my business is be a better teammate, and that's something that I'm super passionate about because they do so much for us, and they're going to show up and they're going to try the best that they can for us. So my belief is that we owe it to them to be the best rider we can be so that we can support them, but also so, they don't have to save us all the time. We love that they do that, but, it's about us stepping into that partnership because it is a partnership, Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I was thinking when you were saying that, like the stronger you are, especially through your core and, that strength through there, it also is a safety factor as well, because then, when horses do spook or trip, because I found, if a horse tripped, I was not easily, but I was able to stay in the saddle where I would see some counterparts, they would just roll right over, they'd flip over their head. And that comes from core strength that absolutely you can build that by riding, but it definitely helps working out on the outside of that. So I think safety wise, but also preventing injuries, right? Just becoming more flexible and
Yeah, and I mean, the safety thing for me is huge. Working out teaches you body awareness, it teaches you balance, coordination, like touch wood. It's been a really, really long time since I've fallen off, and I've had big spooks, things, stops at jumps, different things happen. And I've been able to stay in the tack, and I'm great. I'm in my 40s, I'm not trying to do anything crazy, but I'm 44 and I want to be safe. I also want longevity in this sport. I've had clients in their 70s. A couple of years ago, I was working with a rider in her early 70s. She did have a fall, but her doctor said to her, this would have been a lot worse. Like a lot worse if you weren't working out. And like her daughter sent me this lovely message to just be like, thank you, because and told me what the doctor said. So we know it's going to happen. But, I saw an article just recently where a professional writer talked about that, just being like, it's going to happen, but if you're in more shape, the impact of the fall is often reduced, if you are, in shape and looking after your body. And so, we know that we take risks when we sit in the saddle. At the end of the day, it is a horse, and, even the best horses can, have bad days and that. Sorry. And, it's just more about looking after your body, really. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that because, riding, like we said, riding itself is such a workout, and you have to be aerobically fit. You have to be, be strong if you want to be effective. And like you said, like a good teammate. And I think that part is like really, really important. And in dressage, especially, like I had a wonderful trainer, and she literally would not let me, like, I was on the lunge line for a long time getting to know this horse so that I wouldn't rely on my hands, because that would not
Yeah.
have been fair to him,
Yeah.
so as I was
That's
getting
awesome.
stronger, but not everybody thinks about that. So it's also the trainer too, because it was an easy conversation for me, because I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't ride this horse. But
Yeah.
he taught me so much, and I got so strong, working with him as well. So we do see, I do love when I see the upper level eventers that are very transparent about their workouts.
Hmm.
Caroline Pamukchu, who is one of our partners on Main Street Market, she does like a day in the life, and she shows when she does PT, she does chiropractor, she works out, and she's always showing. I know Boyd Martin does the same thing. He'll show when he's running and and working out. And I think that's such a great, I think they present themselves as such great role models, that they don't just hop on these horses, that they're working hard too, and they're asking their horses to work hard, and they're working hard too. So do you see that in your business? Like, do you see that people are like, hey, I love that upper level rider, they're working out, I want to do it too?
Yeah, and like it's honestly been amazing to see more upper level riders really talk about that, and that, they are obviously skillful riders. No one, I think, can argue with that fact. But it is really nice to be like, this takes work, and that they see the benefits of working out. And so I think that's been a really nice trend to see that starting to come out in social media and people talk about it. I'm blanking on the US jumper, but same thing. They like said they get up at 5 a.m. and do 30 minutes on the spin bike before they start riding. And, regardless of the disciplines, I watched a documentary on, I think it was bull riders, and,
Oh
and
yeah.
I was blown away. And then I think last year there was one on polo riders, and it showed them in the gym, and jockeys. And so I think we're really starting to see a bit more of the behind the scenes on some of these different sports, and the fact that they don't just show up and, hop in whatever arena they're going into, and relying solely on their skills alone. And I think we're slowly catching up. And someone described it great the other day. Every other sport has practices before they play. They practice, they go to the gym, whether it be soccer or basketball or hockey, and so we are a sport in itself. We shouldn't be any different, that we think we can just show up on the day and hope for the best and hope
Right.
for the results. So we do the practice, and we do the show, but like, where is the behind the scenes of getting to that event? And
Uh,
so, I think it's nice to start to see a little bit more of that being discussed, and the importance of it as well. Yeah.
yeah. So, okay. So you work with people in person
Yes.
and also virtually?
Yes. So I honestly, I would say 70% of my business is virtual, and
Oh,
30%
wow.
is in person. So I work with writers all over the place, different countries. And then obviously, I do have some writers that I work with locally and in person, and run different clinics. And I do biomechanics assessments as well. But yeah, 70% of it's all virtual. So I have 3 different programs that people can choose from based on their needs and their goals. And it's all loaded on an app, so you can do it anywhere in the world. So it's great.
Wow. That's really cool. So walk
Yeah.
us through that. So like, if you had somebody, an amateur eventer who just wanted to get stronger, maybe she's moving up from beginner novice to novice and eventually training, and she knows she has to get stronger. Where do you start? Do you do an assessment? Like, just walk us through like how that program would work.
Yeah, so I think it depends if you've had any experience working out. So for those that haven't, and they're coming to me as a pure beginner, then my recommendation will always be my bespoke program, which is a individualized custom program. You get one-to-one support with me, because like anything, you can have a good program, but if you're not doing things correctly, then you're not going to get the full benefits. Versus someone who maybe has been working out, but not seeing the translation in the saddle, because I do see that a lot, like hard workers, but they're just like, I'm not seeing it in the saddle. And so that's where like my academy, in particular is really good because it's a discipline specific program. It's structured. There's accountability through me and the app, but less of, there's not the one to one. And then lastly is my Vault, which I launched a couple of months ago. And that's pretty much for the self-driven, busy equestrian. It's an exercise library full of workouts that you choose based on the time you've got available. And so that's been super popular this summer because summer is obviously like really busy for a lot of people. So, it's more, I always offer a free consultation to hop on a call and, help you choose which 3 of the programs is best suited for you. Because obviously, I want to set you up for success, and so I always offer that call just so I can chat through and see what you need, what your goals are, and that. So it's a little bit dependent on what your experience working out is to where is the most suitable program.
And then do you also guide people like aerobically? Because I know like you have to be aerobically fit as well
Yeah.
in a lot of these disciplines. I mean,
Yeah.
we all know this is an equestrian podcast, and I've
Yeah.
never had anyone say like, well, you just sit there. But I know that that's, a common misnomer in the what I call normal people world.
Yeah.
But you really do have to be, I mean, even to be able to run, really even novice cross country, if you're running in the heat, you've got to be fit if you're going to make it,
Yep. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
fitness is part of it as well. So it's not just strength training. Fitness is 100% part of it as well. I did a funny post the other day of one of my clients. I filmed her running, and there was another person riding in the arena, and they stopped because they thought there was a loose horse. They thought she was running, and we were dying. And I was like, no, I'm just making her, I'm making her run. But we were laughing because just the thought of someone running was like, there must be a loose horse somewhere. But I was like, no, she needs to do cardio. But in all honesty, the lower levels need it the most because, you have to be able to hold a 2 point, like an
Yes.
event. Like we are the triathlon, the horse
Yes.
world. And so you have to have the capacity to last across the whole day, or if you're doing a 3 day, but you have to have a foundation and cardio. And again, it goes back to the safety. Like the first thing to go when you're unfit is your decision making. And that on a horse is costly,
Interesting. You're right though. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you're not fit, your decision
Not making
making
good
is
decisions. Yeah.
limited, and so your reaction time is slower. All of those things, and again, on a horse, you don't want to be making poor decisions and timing. If it's jumping, that's when you don't get the right stride, or your
Hmm.
line's wrong, or in a dressage test, it's the having the brain and the fitness to remember your test, because
Yes.
if you're tired, again, that's where people go off course in a dressage test because the brain stopped working because they're physically fatigued. And so, the cardio has to be in there. And, again, depending on the discipline of what kind of cardio. So my eventers, they need some high intensity in there, but they also need endurance.
Hmm.
Dressage riders, they don't have obviously the explosiveness needed from, jumping. So they
Hmm.
really need the aerobic base to be able to
Hmm.
last over a long test and that, whereas the jumpers, theirs is, short, but they have to do, jump off straight afterwards and multiple horses, and it's a long day. So like they have to have anaerobic, capacity. So there's no point doing all this amazing strength training if we also then just like neglect our cardio, and vice versa. There's a lot of people
Yeah.
who just do cardio but then don't strength training. And I'm like, that also isn't the solution either. It's gotta be a mix of both to get the benefits really across the board.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. So on the entrepreneur side, because this is
Mhm.
one of my favorite things about Main Street Minute, I love to interview entrepreneurs. I'm always fascinated with the story, behind the brand. And I know as an entrepreneur, like taking that leap from security of a job, even though we might not be happy there, but there is security when you're working for somebody else. So I'm always fascinated with what it took to. And I know you explained that you were there, it was your passion, but how did you just finally say, okay, I'm doing this? Like this is what I'm going to be doing. How did you do that?
Yeah, I mean, like I still do have a job, so I guess I do have that security as well. Like I work with different athletes from a different sport, so I have that aspect there. But I think it's having good people around you. Like I think your support system, like I'm very lucky to have an incredible family who just were like, we know you can do hard things.
Yeah,
You moved from New Zealand to Canada. We know you can do hard things, and we know if you put your mind to it, you can do it. And so I think having the support around you is really key. And not being afraid to ask for help though. I probably didn't do that sooner, as soon as I should have. But I eventually I hired a business coach, and they were amazing. That like I had no systems, client agreements. I was just kind of rocking it and hoping for the best and learning some hard lessons along the way. And so I wish I probably got a business coach earlier just to help avoid some of those hard lessons. But also things like the Facebook group that we're both part of, like there's lots out there now where you can learn for free or for paid. I think just knowing, if you talk to any entrepreneur, they're always going to be honest. What you see on social media isn't always what's happening behind the scenes and how hard
that's for
we
sure.
work. And so I think, at times I've been guilty of comparing myself to other businesses and being like, oh, wow, they look like they're really crushing it. I had a conversation with an entrepreneur just recently in a similar field to me. And, they opened up about how hard things have been. And I was like, well, I was really looking at their social media being like, wow,
Yeah.
and then learned behind the scenes it was a bit of a different story. And so I think just as hard as it is sometimes, just to really just try and focus on what you're doing, what you're creating, your service, and not try and get caught up in that social media world. It's tough, but yeah, I think those are the big things. Like have good people around you to lift you up through the struggles, but ask for help when you need it, and just be mindful of social media and comparisons. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really, really good because, putting yourself out there is hard the
Yeah.
first time. So you
Yeah.
had to, at some point you had to be like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
putting myself out there. And when you do that, we all are risking judgment and
Hmm.
opinions. And
Yeah.
I think that's, over time you've been doing this for 6 years and I've had Main Street Market for 5. I've owned another business before this, but when people say, well, it's just business, it's not personal. It's like, well, it's personal, because it's
Pretty
me.
personal.
Yeah, it's pretty personal. So I
Yeah.
think as seasoned business owners, seasoned entrepreneurs, you do learn that there's just an ebb and flow.
Yes.
Like in our first year, the website crashed because it just couldn't keep up. There were so many people that were logging on, and I was freaking out. I was
Yeah.
literally walking all over the house, and I was like, this is horrible. And, I was just like, this is the worst day in the world. And
Yeah.
my husband was like, India, like it's a horse sales website. It's
Yeah.
okay. everyone's
Yeah.
going to be okay. But it did
Yeah.
take me a while to understand, like, Facebook crashed. I mean,
Mm,
Bank of America app crashed one day. Like, it's
yeah.
like these things just happen. And especially, I'm in the technology world, and it does have a mind of its own. But I think after a while, I wish I'd known that sooner. I wish I had a
Yeah.
mentor that
Yeah.
prepared me and said, hey, there are going to be days that are out of your control. There are going
Yeah.
to be customers, clients that are not happy. It's probably not you, it's probably them, but it does feel
Yeah.
personal. But I think by
Yeah.
hearing these stories and hearing from other entrepreneurs, it's really helpful and inspiring, And
Yeah. And
yeah.
yeah, and I think it's an important topic, like, and regardless of the size of your business, any time I've had a client leave, I feel that to the bones. I'm
Right.
always super disappointed if it hasn't worked out. And we do take it personally. We always reflect and be like, is there something I could have done
Hmm.
differently?
Hmm.
And hard, it is hard, but sometimes you like to get to a point, and I think I'm pretty there where I'm able to step back and be like, you know what, this actually isn't about me.
Right.
This isn't about me. And as my friends always tell me, and it goes back to that support, when one door closes, it opens the door for someone who's more suited to work
Hmm.
with you. And I
Hmm.
try to lean into that a bit more as well. And I did a post yesterday that said, not every no needs to be a yes, and being okay with that.
Oh, I love that. Isn't that so
Yeah,
true? Like, we don't have to
yeah,
coerce a no into a yes.
yeah.
It's just no.
Yeah,
I love it.
and but like it's taken for those that
Yeah.
are listening, like in my first 2 years, I would have been like, but
I
why?
know. I
Like,
know. It's so
because
true.
now when I get a no, I'm just like, so, and if it's a not right now, I'm like, cool, you know where to find me. Amazing.
Yeah.
And if I feel like there's maybe a barrier there, then I might question a little bit, but I've just been like, that's okay.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's okay. Not every no needs to be a yes. Because I've learned that most of those ones that you've had to convince,
Right.
it often doesn't work out
It's not
anyway in
going to
the
work
long run.
anyway.
So,
Yeah.
when I have people who come to me who are like, I can't wait, or, just signed up out of nowhere, and I'm like, where did they come from? This is
Yeah.
amazing. Like, then it's such a cool feeling. So, and it means it's not as hard work, but yeah, but I do want to preface it took a good couple of years to
Right.
get
It does.
that,
It does. Yeah.
and a bit of self-development to just be like, okay, at the end of the day, it's a business, and it's
Hmm.
not me as a
Right.
human, as an individual and stuff. But yeah, it takes work.
I love that. So, what advice would you give someone I mean, we've kind of covered it, but for someone that has an idea for a product or a service, what, and away from that part, because I think that's once you're in it, but what would your advice be for someone who needed some encouragement to kind of take that leap?
Just know your business can evolve all the time. The products that I have today are not the same products I had in year one. And just being okay that you might launch something and it lasts 6 months and you're like,
Hmm.
you know what? It's not working for me anymore. Or
Hmm.
I want to pivot. And that's totally okay. And so just being brave enough to put it out there and see what happens. You don't know until you don't know. And so I would just encourage them to be brave, and just know that whatever you do launch, it doesn't have to be your product for life. And your business will evolve, and that's totally okay, and that's totally normal. So yeah, just be brave to put it out there, because it's never perfect. I'm always tweaking,
Yes.
reviewing, thinking about how I can make it better. And again, over the 6 years, I've had programs, removed programs, launched things, removed them. I'm at a place now where I'm really happy with my offers, but in 5 years' time, that might look different. So the key is just to launch it and see what happens.
That is so, so true. Because when you're saying that, I was thinking too, sometimes we have in our head what we think will work, and the
Yep.
market will tell you, your customers will tell you that maybe that isn't, the right
Yeah.
thing. And you do have to be willing to pivot.
Hmm.
You have to be willing to say, even though I thought this was a good idea, my customers are saying it isn't. So what can I do to make it better to meet their needs? How can I have better customer service? I'll give you an example for Main Street. A lot of realtors came to us and said, hey, we'd really like for you to put real estate on Main Street Market. Main Street Market is my core business. It's sales, horses, and equine services. And I was like, this is brilliant. We have all the horse people and, they're shopping for horse farms. It did not work. It did not work. And then the realtors that said they wanted it, they never listed their properties.
Oh, yeah.
And then, and I was like, I was trying to make everybody happy. And I kind of had a gut feeling. I'm like, do I really want to be involved in the real estate world? I don't know that world. It was just I did not trust my gut. And I think that's another one too, is to just trust your gut, but be willing to pivot. And one day I was like, you know what? I'm shutting this down. And we just hid that part of the platform. I can bring it back whenever I want. But it just was not working. And even though we've got, 35,000 people, equestrians that visit the website, they weren't coming to look at real estate property. They're coming to look at horses and equine services. So I think it's important that even though on paper, it was a really good idea, in execution, it didn't work. So, we just shut it down. And maybe I'll bring it back one day. Maybe I won't. But I love what you said, because, and also in launching something, it does not have to be perfect to get it out there. You're going to tweak it anyway.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. People want it to be perfect. I've had people that I've mentored that are interested in creating apps and things, and 3 years ago, and they still haven't launched it, because they're still working on it. They want it to be perfect, and they might not ever,
Yeah. And
I love what you said.
And that probably the other thing that my business coach taught me is, regardless of how many people show up like it's 1,000 people, and so that has been invaluable. Like, I ran a clinic, and I had one rider, and I was gutted, but that one rider then signed up for one of my bigger packages. I still train that rider to this day.
Wow.
And I train them in person and virtually.
Wow.
And, they're in my, what I call my VIP bespoke. And so I showed up for that one person. Yes, I still drove home being a little like, one person came. What happened there? Like, I still reflected, but I still gave her the energy as if there were 10 other people there as well.
I love that.
And that was like the lesson, where I was like, you showed up regardless. And look at what the outcome was. She was like, how do I work with you? That was amazing.
That's such great advice. I love that. And what a great example.
Yeah. So, again, that's the value of, like, I worked with my business coach, I think, for 2 years. And then I was like, I can take the training wheels off, and, but I learned a lot from her, and the lessons that have stayed with me regardless is, when I show up, whether it's one person or 10 people, I give it everything regardless of the number of people I'm in front of and stuff. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. So for our listeners, if somebody, you said you do a complimentary consultation call.
Yeah.
How would they get in touch with you?
So they can either message me on Instagram. That's where I am a lot. But otherwise they can go to my website, which is just thestronglider.com, thestronglider.com. And they can fill out an inquiry through there. They can email me as well, and my email's on my website as well. And book the call, or TikTok. I'm across everything. I'm trying my best.
And is it the Strong Rider on all of those platforms?
Yes, the Strong Rider across all of those platforms, to make it nice and easy. But yeah, they can reach out to me through either my website, Instagram, or TikTok, and book that call to have a chat. Yeah, in any discipline.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This was so interesting and educational and just inspiring too. So I really appreciate your time, and I know our listeners do as well.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm always happy to talk about something that I'm passionate about, but also to help out fellow entrepreneurs as well. I hope that there were some good tips in there for the listeners.
Absolutely.
But yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, y'all. Thank you for listening to the Main Street Minute, and we will see you next time.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please let us know. Email support@mainstreetmarket.com and join us again next time for another episode of the Main Street Minute with India Wilkinson right here on the Equus Radio Network.